such an incredible pleasure. You look beautiful as ever.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it is so exciting to have you here. And I am so happy to share one of my all-time favorite clients ever with my audience, which you know how much I adore you. I don't know if you saw the email I sent out just a little while ago announcing this Facebook Live, but it really is true. I loved your story, and you are one of the most remarkable women I've ever met. I just think that you are beautiful inside and out, Beth.
Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, you're welcome. How long ago was it that you did my course?
2 years ago.
So it was 2 years. Wow.
Yes. 2019, I believe I started in June, almost 2 years ago.
Almost 2 years. That's amazing. So Beth, like, let's just roll back the hands of time.
Go for it.
Let's go back 2 years to when you found me. How did you find me?
A friend of mine who is a counselor had seen your ad come through to her email in North Carolina. And she and I have been friends for several years. And she said, Beth, I think this is just the course for you. And so I rang you, and wow, it was just the course for me. It's exactly what I needed at that time.
Yeah. And Beth, I know you would have watched my presentation, right? You saw my 45-minute presentation.
Yes.
What was it that stood out to you? Like, what made you say, I want to talk to this woman. I really do think she can help me.
Well, before I talked to you, I could see that you had a very, what to me was a well laid out program that took you right back to the beginning, right back to your childhood days, and then took you up through adulthood and into looking at your adult relationships. And that was something that I had never done. And so when I talked with you, I was kind of nervous. I thought, ay, what am I doing? And then I said, it's now or never, Beth. Jump off the cliff with Lisa. We're going flying.
This is why I love this woman. She has, I don't know too many people who are as eloquent and who are as colorful.
Oh dear.
In the way that they speak as you are. You're amazing. And
Thank you.
You flew off the cliff and you decided to do this.
Well, it was pretty scary. That's why I say, you know, I had to jump off the cliff with you, and I didn't have a parachute at the time. I mean, the parachute became very obvious, but it was truly a leap of faith. But I knew at my age and stage in life, if I didn't do something very dramatic, that I was going to go to my grave wondering what would it have been like to have been with a man that you loved and he loved you.
Wow.
And I hadn't known that. So,
and Beth, what was your age at the time?
I was 77 at the time, 2 years ago.
You were 77 years old, and you decided that you were worth it, that you deserved this.
Yes, and I think I just really wanted to know, what would it be like to be in a loving relationship with a man. I'd had 2 very significant relationships in marriages, and neither of those could continue. And I was sad about those kinds of losses.
And you'd never really had like a truly loving, satisfying, heartfelt connection with a man. Is that true?
Yes, it is very true. In my I've been married twice, and in my first marriage, I think I married somebody I thought my parents would approve of. And that was the wrong thing to do. And eventually I had to make the very terrible and painful decision after 13 and a half years of marriage to leave that marriage And this was at a time when women didn't leave professional men, and everybody thought I was absolutely crazy.
Wow. And did you have children then, Beth?
Yes, I have two children, and at that time my daughters were 9 and 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was how many years ago?
Oh my. 52 minus 9. 43 years ago. First one.
43 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And were many women getting divorced back then? Were you one of the few?
Well,
One of the first?
yes, I felt like a pariah. I lived in a southwestern Ontario community, and these things didn't happen that much at that time. And even in my own family, my own father just was horrified. My mother was supportive, and Dad finally did come around.
Wow. So that was really courageous for you to leave that marriage.
Yes.
Because you weren't happy and you couldn't stay in it. And then you had a second marriage.
Then I was on my own with my children for 11 years. And then I met and married another man who was a very, very lovely man. And regrettably, he became very, very ill with both depression and severe alcoholism.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were together for 12 years. Mm. And he eventually made the decision to leave. I said, I'm never leaving again. I don't want to be punished forever by society and my family. So this is it.
Wow.
So, anyway, so he graciously did leave of his own accord. And that turned out to be the best thing. As my father was wont to say, Beth, you would have had to put him out if he hadn't left on his own.
Yeah. Yeah. And he would have taken you down with them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so how old were you, Beth, when that marriage ended?
I was 60.
So you were 60 years old. Mm-hmm. And you were out on your own again.
Yes.
And I think, had you had another relationship end quite close to when?
Yes, I had. Yes, yeah. I had been in a relationship for 2 years, and the person I was with was not a person I could stay with, and I was again settling, I think. And so I ended that. And so when I met you, I was what I would call a mess.
A mess.
Yes. I was in serious need of help, trust me. Yeah.
And why? Can you share with everybody, Beth? Because most of us have been there.
Well, I blame myself for what happened. I did the ending of the relationship. At that time, I was still taking many things personally, and so that was huge for me to learn not to take things personally and to not make assumptions. And through help with Victoria Allen, I was able to accept the fact that, yes, I'd been married twice, but that didn't mean I couldn't find love truly in another time. And so that was hugely important to me to know that.
That's amazing. And Beth, you, so you were 77 years old and you just ended this relationship, I think 6 months before, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And your friend turned you on to me and you jumped in. And tell everybody, because this is not jumping into the shallow end. This course is jumping into the deep end.
I truly found it a very amazing course. There is no course quite like it out there. And what I found was so extremely helpful is that I had to go back and look at those early relationships. And oh my goodness, guess what? I probably was an emotionally unavailable female, never mind being with an emotionally available man. Whew, wasn't that a shock? Anyway, I had to learn what being emotionally available was all about. back in the Middle Ages, when I was a teenager, we didn't talk about things like that. Those words hadn't even come into our language.
Right.
And so there were many, many things that I didn't know very much about. So I was on a very steep learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read the book Attached, oh my goodness, that was a very emotional week. I'm sure my book has many tear stain marks on the pages as I read this and thought, oh my goodness, is this what this has been all about? So it was that third week, I believe it is, was a watershed week for me, as it is for many of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I had grown up in a home where things that children learn, I didn't learn. And so as a teenager and a young adult, I was always seeking out other role models to learn things that my dear mother didn't know herself. So how could she teach me? And my father didn't know them either, and he just was perplexed. And I knew there was a better way, but how to find it, I didn't know.
yeah. Beth, can I ask you, what was it like? I'm sure you never thought in a million years that you would be single and alone and never having experienced true love at 77. What was that like when you really get into your heart and you're being completely emotionally naked and honest? What was that like for you?
Well, it was very devastating to have to admit to myself that I had never been there yet. And here I am at 77. What a slow learner. Where have you been all your life, Beth? And so it was with wonderful gratitude and enthusiasm and courage and a whole bunch of other things all rolled together that I embarked on traveling with you for 12 weeks or more. And then, of course, follow-up calls. But those were just probably the most important 12 weeks of my life. Wow. Because I had to learn many, many things in short order.
I just got chills from head to toe. Chills.
Yeah.
With what you just said. And I know it's true. I know it's true. And I'm so happy, Beth, that we were able to work together. I love you so much.
Oh, thank you, Lisa.
I really do. I genuinely.
The feeling's very mutual, I can assure you.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not kidding you when I say that I'm coming up to visit you. And
good.
Maybe with the Broads of Badness.
I'll put out the notice. They will assemble.
Because that is the most fabulous thing. This woman has a group of girlfriends who get together every year. Is that right? And they're called the Broads of Badness. I mean, how can you not love her? How can you not love this woman?
We've not been arrested yet, I'm proud to announce. But we have been the entertainment in a few places.
I have to tell you something so funny. My mother-in-law in her late 80s, early 90s was a member of the Red Hats.
Oh my goodness, right? Yes.
And they used to go and they would moon. There would be a train once a year that they would go and moon the train. All of the little old women, all of these Red Hats would moon the train.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think of that. I think of you when I think of that. So Beth, this really was something that was, I don't know if the women here can really feel how deep and true your heart is. But one of the things that I remember in the course was that you shared some letters that you had written to the men, to each of the men who you had these relationships with, forgiving them and letting go.
Yes.
And what was to tell everybody a little bit about those letters, because they were extraordinary.
They were very simply written. Some of the things that I said to my first husband and father of my children was that I apologized to him for not having been able to be the wife that he needed to support him in different areas of his growing, and that I forgave him for not being able to support me in some of the things. I don't have the letter right in my head, but that was kind of the gist of it. And the forgiving part was so powerful. I don't think you can move on if you review the past chapters where you haven't forgiven somebody. Yeah.
And you based those letters, what were they based on? There was a specific thing that you based those letters
Well,
on.
it's the Ho'oponopono creed, I guess, that you find in Hawaii, and I don't remember all of it, but it's I forgive you, I love you, and there's
Thank
two
you,
others.
I'm sorry. I love
I,
you,
if you
forgive you, thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you, I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
I touched on each of those four things with each person. And I had to really, they're not very lengthy letters. They're fairly straightforward, almost in point form. But I found it so freeing to do that. And I did that for every person with whom I'd had a significant relationship. So that started off with my father, my children's father, my second husband, several other relationships. And it was almost like a cleansing of the soul, a clearing out, a decluttering, to not to minimize it, and I needed to do that.
Yeah. And
then I had a ceremony and I burned them. A friend and I got together and we had a little fire down at the shore lot and we burned them. And we wished each of these men very well.
Yeah. And you shared several of those letters with me, and
yes,
I was sobbing when I read
oh.
them. I was literally sobbing. They were so beautiful. And I don't know where you came up with that. If somebody had said to you, to use the Ho'oponopono prayer for that.
Yes.
Did
yes.
somebody suggest that to you?
Somewhere in my travels, yes, they had.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know the Ho'oponopono prayer, and I know that people will say it, but I had never, ever heard of somebody writing letters based on the prayer. And it was breathtaking. It really was. It was breathtaking that you did that. And you did it with such depth and sincerity and emotional nakedness. It was really beautiful. Did you do that prior to the course, or was that something you did?
No, I had learned about it prior to taking the course, but I did it during the time of the course, because it meant I needed to go back. It wasn't just one letter I had to write. It was probably about 8.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
Beautiful, beautiful, really extraordinary. And Beth, tell me about your journey. I know there were books you mentioned attached, and I know you mentioned Victoria and the work that you did with her. What are some things that really stood out as just highlights for you?
Well, for me, it was the work that we did each week, the calls with you and your moral support and your telling us that we could do it, and your deep, heartfelt belief in each one of us, no matter where we were in our journey. I think that for me was such a sustaining force. Because when you think that you can't do something, you need somebody like you to walk with you and just be with you, even if you don't say anything. Just to have you there was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those Q&A calls with all the women, they're really extraordinary women, right?
Well, I think that, again, I've never been involved quite like that before, and I found the Q&A calls absolutely wonderful because we could see where each of us were. Some of us were faster learners than others. Some of us had different struggles from one another, but we were all in this together, and the support of the other women was truly stellar. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you get so caught up in everyone's journey and, seeing where it goes and watching some people meet
Yeah.
someone. And yeah, it's really there. Those calls are amazing. Um, I know that you didn't meet somebody while you were in the course, right? But you did
No,
get back out and start dating again.
I did.
Let me ask you, once you did Benjamin write your profile for you?
Yes, he wrote an absolutely wonderful profile.
Hmm.
Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
and that was really a big tell everybody, like a lot of people, a lot of women are very certain that men don't bother to read the profiles. And that really isn't true. There are some men who don't read the profiles, but there are men who do read the profiles. What was the response, Beth?
Um, I found that some men read the profiles, others didn't, but the man I'm with now did read the profile, and it was almost like, wow, I better live up to everything that was written in my profile. Have to produce now.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Beth, you got back out in the dating world, and was it different this time? Did you feel
Yes.
different? Tell everybody, because,
Well,
everybody's
I
struggling.
I had to. I learned a very important thing from one of my social work colleagues. I was probably 40 and she was 24. And she taught us all something that I think is invaluable. She said, I know who I am. I have a path to walk on. I know what my path is. If somebody cares to join me and walk on my path with me, that will be wonderful. And when I was in the some of the struggles, I remembered that piece. And so when other women in the course were meeting people and I wasn't, I went back to my young friends' words, and they were what helped me in part. And I just knew it wasn't my time or whatever. I perhaps
Mhm.
needed to do more work. For me, I needed to work in becoming visible because I had lived in a horror house and I learned to, in order to survive, to be invisible. So
Mhm.
having to be visible, I mean, 2 years ago to come on a call like this, I would have said, Jesus Murphy, Lisa, are you kidding me? I can't do that. But, here we are.
Here
Yeah.
we are, because you're going to help inspire all of these beautiful women who are listening and let them know that you can find love at any age.
Absolutely. I have friends in literally every decade, women friends, and some of my women friends are younger than my own children who are in their early 50s. And I laugh and I say, women's stuff is women's stuff. It doesn't matter what your generation. Literally, we all experience some things a little bit differently, of course, as you go along, but certainly recognizable no matter what your generation. And
Yep.
that's the beauty of sisterhood.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. And so let me ask you. So you graduated the course, I remember, and you went
Mhm.
on to do your thing. I know you've come on many of the grad calls and you've been terrific. And there was one guy before this guy. Tell everybody, we have a
Yeah.
theory in the Emotionally Naked Dating course of something called an imposter. And you definitely met your imposter. So
Oh, he was a delightful doozy. Yes. In the a year ago, in the earlier days of COVID, I would say from March till June of 2020, this man would call me every night. I knew he was talking to another woman, and I couldn't figure out with him if he'd made a commitment to the other woman or what was really going on. Anyway, he was fun to talk with, and finally, I'm a sailor and he is too. And finally, he came to see me one day to bring me some, this very romantic, to bring me bottom paint for my sailboat. But anyway, but I think he wanted to see what I looked like. And he wanted to tell me that he was going to go and visit this other woman who lived in another province. But he wanted me to be his friend. And I went, well, I didn't sign up for online dating to look for a friend. I have loads of friends. I don't need you as my friend. I'm looking for the guardian of my soul. So anyway,
But let me pause you. You spent hours talking to him on over Zoom.
I would yes, I would say probably 3 months
Yeah.
almost. But we weren't we weren't able to visit one another or go anywhere. We were in lockdown at that point because of COVID, and so we talked on the phone
For hours. I mean,
Yeah.
he gave you no indication that it was just a friendship.
No, I didn't know till he came that day that he wanted to have his main lady and he wanted me as a friend to do things with him. And I thought, oh my goodness, you have just got to be kidding me. I was astounded that a man would think that way. Anyway, with your help and support of others, I sent him a letter and wished him well, because I wasn't willing to be, what's the word? Well, a side amusement, I guess, to put it rudely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it was about a month after that I met David, who's the man I'm with now. And he's certainly not like the imposter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what was it like going back to the imposter? How did you feel when, I mean, on that date, when he said he wanted to be your friend and he told you about this other woman? That must have felt like you got punched in the gut.
Well, it was truly, in rude language, a sucker punch of ginormous proportions. And I thought, ay, 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 I couldn't imagine having two women to look after, for one thing. And it was just not something I wanted to be part of. That's not what I do.
But you had your hopes up. You really thought that this was something.
Well, I knew there was a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
The good news was when he walked through my door, I didn't feel a thing.
Ah.
It was so amazing. I thought, oh my goodness, you're here. Wow, you're not what I thought you would be. There was absolutely no emotion between us. It was the strangest thing in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got right back out there.
Yeah.
You put yourself right back out there. You didn't skip a beat. You got,
No.
you said goodbye to him,
Mm-hmm.
got rid of it. You didn't hold on.
No.
You passed your frenemy. You passed your imposter test with flying colors, and you got right back out there. And a month later, you met David.
Yes. Yes.
And tell us about David. Everybody wants to hear about your guy.
Well, David is what I would call a lovely man, in that he is probably first out of the gate the kindest man I have ever been with. He's extremely kind. He's funny as all get out. He loves words, and sometimes I have to really listen because I can get zinged and not know I've been had. He's a very staunch family man. At the time I met him, he had been a widower for almost 3 years. And he has a lovely little saying taped to the side of his fridge. And it says, you can't move on in a new chapter in your life if you spend all your time reviewing the past chapters. And I would say this man truly lives by that. Mm-hmm. He had done his mourning. And he was ready to, move gingerly. We both were gingerly at first, but he's just as solid as they come. And I just madly adore him. He's great. He's a golfer. We won't hold that against him. I'm a sailor. So he golfs and I do water things and do other things when he's golfing. I'm so lousy at golf, I wouldn't dare even try to whack a golf ball now. But anyway, it's pretty funny.
That's wonderful. And Linda, share, how is your life different? How are you different with this wonderful man? How long have you been together now?
Almost 10 months. Yeah. Well, for the first time in my life, I I think I have allowed myself to be emotionally available. And so we are in complete lockdown again in my part of the world. And so because he doesn't live in the same district as I do, we've been apart now for 3 weeks. And prior to that, we would have seen each other every day. So that's been a real struggle. How is having him in my life different? Well, he's a lovely companion. We have a lot of fun doing things together. And I think we each help each other to grow. He's very interested in what it is I like to do, and I will always be learning something. And so he's very supportive of that. He is extremely supportive of his family. He has a son and a daughter, and I've been very deeply, deeply touched by how kind he is to them and how lovely they are with him. And by extension, they're lovely with me. I've never been accepted by somebody's family in the way that I am by his family. No. I used to, cringe because of mothers-in-law who were not exactly kind. I don't understand being that unkind, but some people think that's how you should be. Not me.
Wow. And so they just embrace you. They embrace you as one of the family.
Yes, and they welcomed me into the family fairly early on, I might add. And the son was having some difficulty because he was very attached to his mother. But no one can ever take his mother's place, and I think he understands that now, and is accepting of me as an important person in his father's life. Yeah.
And it sounds like they're happy for the father,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
They love him and they want to see him happy. I mean, he lost his wife.
Yeah, she died of cancer, sadly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm so impressed by their caring of me. Again, as I said, I have never been used to that degree of caring, and so it's lovely.
I'm so happy for you that you have that, Beth. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And what about your kids? Are your kids accepting of him? Or are they
my children live in another province, and they're in lockdown as well, so we haven't been able to see one another. It will be 2 years likely before I will have seen my daughters in person.
No.
So, yeah. No, the good thing is I see them on Zoom calls. One daughter is a manager, owns a yoga studio, and classes are all online. So I see them at yoga. That's how we see one another. But so they've not met David.
Oh, what a shame.
It is.
What a shame. Well, I hope that they're as open-hearted and loving and open to him as his kids have been with you.
Oh, one can only hope.
I really hope so, Beth. And may I ask, I mean, I think people are curious, and without getting, Carol wants to know where you live, Beth.
Oh, I live in Nova Scotia, Canada.
Yeah, so they're still in lockdown. So I want to know, and without being, prying into your private life, but it sounds like this man, you're very much in love with him.
Very much so.
And I want to know something that anybody would wonder about affection and intimacy at 70, at 70, what, 8 or 9?
I just turned 79 last week.
Oh, Beth, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah. Happy birthday. I think I wrote on your page. I believe I did. Yeah. I don't think I would have missed that for anything to say happy birthday to you. But I'm sure people want to know about affection, intimacy, romance. Are there all of those things?
Well, here's how I frame it. People are always asking me, well, Beth, what about this and what about that? And I say, darlings, it's like this. You do everything you ever did. I do everything I ever did before except downhill skiing. I just do everything a bit slower. And it's the same with your sex life, intimacy, all of those things. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the intimacy, I think, is getting easier because I feel so at home with David. But, just because you're have a number on your birth card, it doesn't mean you have to be, let's say, non-active.
Non-active.
Yeah.
Good to know. I'm so happy for you. Oh,
Well, I once had a friend who's in her 50s say, Beth, I've never known anybody like you. What's it like to be bisexual at your age? And I just say, well, it's. I just do the same things some of the same things I did when I was younger. It's just slower, and you learn if your partner isn't able to participate in the same way that he might have at a younger age because he has ED or some other difficulty. You just learn to pleasure each other in different ways,
beautiful.
and you make it up as you go along.
I am so happy that you're sharing that because you can have amazing intimacy
Yes.
as we get, as we get on in years.
Hmm.
There's no reason in the world, regardless of what nature is doing, that we cannot enjoy beautiful, intimate connection with a partner. And it doesn't
Absolutely.
have to look, it's only bad or wrong if we try to put this, look at this and say it's supposed to look like this and not be mature and not be adults about it. Connie is asking, how did you meet? How did you and David meet?
We met on a website called Our Time, and David lives an hour away from me, so it was interesting to getting together. We had our first date at McDonald's.
You did not.
We
You,
did
you
for
did.
coffee. Yeah.
You
Well,
had coffee at McDonald's.
yes. Well, I don't live in a hugely urban area, neither does he, so we met part way, and that was where we met. But yeah.
I love it. I love it. So your first date was at a McDonald's.
I know, just laugh your heads off, folks. I love it too.
What a great story. And did you feel something when David walked in?
Um, I was curious. I did not allow myself to feel a whole lot because I was just being very cautious.
Mhm.
But he's the kind of man that grows on you over time. So then we met for dinner, and again, very very pleasant. But as we then moved to do things we both like, which is walk on beaches, hike, kayak, those kinds of things, then it was much easier to connect in a more meaningful way.
So wait, you and David went kayaking?
Oh yeah.
Really? Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yeah, we each bought a kayak, a small one, and so we do a fair bit of kayaking.
That
Yeah.
is so amazing. What else do you do together for fun?
Well, we live in an area, especially near where he lives, where there are a lot of magnificent beaches. So we'll pack a picnic and go to the beach and walk. You could walk maybe a mile on a beach, which is lovely. And we take pictures, and we just enjoy our great outdoors.
Mm, beautiful. Did you speak with him on the phone first or on Zoom
Yes,
before you met?
yes. All the things that we were taught to do in the class, I did. So we
Mhm.
talked on the phone. Yes, definitely.
That's fantastic. And how old is David? What's his age?
David will be 77 in December.
So you got a younger guy.
Hey, honey, I don't want some old fart. Jeez, no. So many men my own, I'm sorry to be quite rude. So many men my own age have given up already. And David has an expression: we can't let the old man in. We can't let the old woman in. And so we live that, each of us, very clearly.
Oh my God, that is priceless. That is priceless. Oh my goodness. How long did it take you to feel chemistry with him?
Probably it started about date 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So it grew, like, as you got to
Yes.
know him, it grew and it
And
grew.
I was very happy that I didn't, feel wild and crazy like you might have as a teenager.
Mhm.
I knew that it was better to go slowly. And
Wow.
he is not like anybody I've ever known before. I want you to hear that.
So,
Yeah.
and tell everybody, Beth, what's different?
Well, in the olden days, as a kid, a teenager, I probably would have looked at the cute boys. They could dance, but they didn't wear well for the future. And then, as well, I think to be very fair, I too was emotionally unavailable. So I did not attract men who were necessarily emotionally available. Certainly, my first husband, a lovely, lovely man, but we were not a good match. And my second husband was a much better match, but then his illness and his depression, and then descending on into paths no one could follow, meant that we couldn't stay together, and he wasn't prepared to do anything about it. So it was very tragic to watch him go down rabbit holes that we couldn't follow. So that left me kind of feeling quite scared. So this time, I think with the help of the course, understanding my own attachment style, learning where I had been, learning where I needed to go, even more important, was what helped me then meet David and find in him a man who would be my soulmate.
Yeah.
I would not have chosen him as a younger woman.
Why not?
Oh, I'm embarrassed to say this. Probably his steadfastness and his normalcy would have seemed too unfamiliar to me.
Boring.
Yeah. And
Boring.
yet now it's what I know I must have. The flamboyant bad boy doesn't wear well.
Yeah. And what we're longing for is really to have a real man,
Yes.
but we can't see them. The bad boys are boys. They're not men.
No.
And real men are steadfast. They show up, they're predictable, they're more predictable, they're more
Oh,
solid.
absolutely.
But
They
those
do what they say they will do. They are there for you. All the wonderful things that you would hope for
yeah.
are found in men who are steadfast.
Yeah. Beth, what would you say to all the women who are listening, who are looking for love? Like, they're out there, they're you, right? Some of them are probably your age, some of them are younger. But what would you share with them? What wisdom from your journey?
I would say if you are stuck on what I would call the hamster wheel of doing the same old thing over and over, you need to interrupt that. And for me, joining your course and working with you and with the other women in my course with you was absolutely invaluable. Some of us cannot do this on our own. I know I needed a huge amount of help. Oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
just didn't know some things.
And Beth, about like how much, like what's also extraordinary is how much you learned in 12 weeks. 12
Well,
weeks.
your course is so excellent in its path of showing you how to do things. First, what you need to look at by way of where you've been, what you need to look at by way of where you need to go, and what are the. I think for me, it was I learned practical tools that I didn't learn anywhere else. And it's laid out for you. If you follow it, it's like a wonderful roadmap that takes you on a marvelous journey of learning. Yeah.
Yeah. And you learn not just about men and love and dating, you learn about yourself.
Well, I was just going to say that the changes that if you're honest with yourself, some of the changes that you need to make are quite stretching and life affirming and life changing. So I know I've had to acknowledge with myself that I likely was an emotionally unavailable woman. And when I got over the shock of that, it's, well, what do I need to do to become emotionally available? Well, I had some lot of learning to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And to go 77 years not knowing that, not knowing what your attachment style was, not knowing how men think and feel, how to put yourself in their shoes.
Well, I was going to say one of the most important things that I learn, and I learn more and more every week. I always try to listen to your Facebook Live because there are always what I call nuggets and pearls. And the learning about how to speak with men was not anything I learned at home. And so I had to start literally at lesson 1. And I have found the need to be respectful to men, to know that they're tender-hearted, not to shame them or blame them, all of those things. Those have been just such wonderful tools to know. And if I step over the line with David, as in start saying something that approaches being his mother, I will get, I have a brain, you know, and I think, ooh, I crossed the line.
You know, I love
it. So I've had to learn where to go and where not to go.
Oh, but he lets you know and you laugh about it.
Oh, we do. Well, I've been so fiercely independent for so many years that, you know, learning to allow a man to do things for me. I mean, these might seem like very small things to other people, but this was huge for me. I once had a neighbor say to me, Beth, you're never going to have a man in your life because you're too confident and he won't have anything to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But look at you. I just want to say, like, I am, and I'm sure lots of the women listening are really in awe of you, Beth, because there's a way in which so many people just give up. They just give up. They say, well, if it hasn't happened by now, you know, clearly it's not meant to be. And, you know, for you, as long as you have a breath in your body, you were going to make this happen.
Well, I truly think that little girls were raised with too many princess stories, and the charming prince doesn't come sweeping in on his white horse. We have work that we need to do as well in order to be women that a steadfast, treasured man would want to be with. And that probably is a shock for some people to think, well, just because you're a female and you might be nice looking, that's not what you need at all.
Yeah. Beth, have you said I love you to each other?
Oh, heavens, many times. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What does it feel like to hear that and say that to this wonderful
Well, I just feel like I'm swathed in a cocoon of love, actually. Yeah. Yeah. David's a tall man. He's 6'2", and I'm 5'3" and 1/3 inch. And
oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he calls me his little cutie, which makes me laugh my head off. But anyway, that's what he says, and I find that funny as all get out. But anyway, and he's a very tall, straight in his stature man. So can't get him to dance though, but we're working on it.
I wanted to share with you that you had mentioned that you love the Facebook Lives.
Yes.
I'm sure you're on my email list, and you must know Benjamin and I have started a new Facebook Live, and it is every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So it's called Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. And we are probing Benjamin's mind for all these amazing gems because, as you know, this man has an incredible, incredible mind. He's so deep. So this is my new pet project, is this Facebook Live.
But most regrettably, I was on the road when you and Benjamin started the conversation, and I got off the road to try to find you, and I didn't have proper connection with the internet, so I went home and I watched you on the replay. It's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful interchange between the two of you. Oh, wow. Lots to learn.
Thank you. Well, he really is so deep, and he is such the things that he shares, being a masculine, self-aware, kind, emotionally available man, and being so articulate. It's just his mind and his heart are really among the most beautiful male minds and hearts I've ever encountered. So that these will be every what do I want to say? They'll be every Sunday at 10 a.m. And there are recordings, and we're also going to turn it into a podcast. So
I thought your first one was absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
If women and men want to learn about lovely interchanges, just watch the two of you. It was really very wonderful.
Yay. I'm so glad to hear that, Beth. Somebody had asked, are you happy with having given up some of that independence?
Well, here's the thing. Some of what I have had to do, I still do. But what I've learned to do is to let David help me with things. And so instead of being a bossy bee and saying, I can do that myself, I now say, oh, thank you. I really appreciate your help, and mean it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as simple as carrying your groceries or lifting heavy things. If you can believe, I've had to learn just the most basic of things I've had to learn, like 1 and 1 are 2. Yes, they still are 2. And so, but I find every day with more practice, you get better at it. And I don't mean in an insincere way. I am able to do things and allow him to do things.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And it's what you've always wanted, really, right?
But we work as a team, and that's really fun. Yeah.
How so, Beth? When you say you work as a team?
Oh, well, I have great fun. When he comes to my house, he's the sous chef. And he's a great sous chef. And I don't like all that choppy stuff. I probably want to get things done in a hurry, and he's just much better at it than I am. And so we create these beautiful dishes together, which is really fun. What else do we do? Well, we share ideas, and I find if I'm having a struggle with what do I say to somebody, I'll go over it with him, and he'll say, well, you might want to think about da 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 da. And of course, our favorite expression is, would there be merit in saying da 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 da? So that's been really fun. And like you with Benjamin, I find I really have to listen and make sure I've heard and acknowledge.
Yeah. Do you look forward to traveling together once COVID is behind us? Will you travel?
Well, I see that we will go exploring in places close to home. Mm-hmm. I'm a traveler. I've loved traveling by air, by ship. He served in the Navy for 12 years. He's not keen on either flying or going on a ship. So we'll have to figure that one out. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy just to go on road trips for a few days at a time and see how we do. I think we'll do famously because we enjoy each other's company. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be so fun for the two of you.
Yeah.
To be able to go and it must be such a joy, Beth, especially at this stage of life, to have a best friend and a playmate, and you're +1 right there, knowing that you finally got to meet my soulmate off your to-do list.
Well, and I especially treasure each day, because who knows when your health could turn on a spin of a dime and you wouldn't have the good health and fortune that you do today. So it's even another level of cherishing and being respectful and caring.
Yeah. I have this theory of, I talk about summers. How many summers
Yes.
do we have left? And
Hmm.
for me, summers equate to cherry seasons.
Okay.
I love cherries.
Oh, good.
I love cherries. That's my favorite.
Uh-huh.
And cherry season is so short. They come and go. One minute they have them at Whole Foods, and then one day, not very long after, Benjamin comes home and says there were no more cherries. And that's how I mark time, is by the beginning and end of cherry season. To me, that tells me another season, another
Yes.
year until
Yes.
cherries again. And he just came home yesterday from Whole Foods with the first bag of cherries.
Good.
But
Good.
it makes me really stop and appreciate time, that we only have so much time, and
Yeah.
we have to cherish it.
And I would absolutely agree with that. We haven't seen each other for 3 weeks, and it feels like a very long time. And I suspect it may be another 3 weeks before we do. But we FaceTime every evening, and we text message through the day, and that's how we get by.
Oh, Beth, I hope that this quarantine, for your sake, goes by very fast, and that the two of you are in each other's arms again.
Well, I look forward to that day, I can assure you. I'm not liking being on my own.
Oh, yeah. Well, now that you have it,
Yeah.
you want to enjoy every single second of it. And Beth, I just can't thank you enough for coming on this Facebook Live with me. I'm going to say again just how much I treasure you. You are
Well,
one in a billion, and there are very few Beth McGee's in this world. And I really want you to know how grateful I am that I found one.
well, and I'm very grateful to you, Lisa, because without your caring and your support and your wonderful guidance through your course, I would never be where I am today. And no, she didn't pay me to say this. I truly do mean it.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad we found each other, and that you said yes when I offered to take you on as a client. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story, Beth, with everybody. And
So,
please give my love to David and ask him.
thank you. And mine to Benjamin.
I will. And ask David. I know he's, under the radar kind of guy, but would you please ask him if he would get on a Facebook on a Zoom call with Benjamin and me, just the four of us?
Oh, that would be fun. I hope he will. He's sort of a shy guy in this business of doing Zoom. I think he scratches his head with a piece of glass, but we'll get through that.
Will you ask him if he would just get on with Benjamin and me, the four of us, completely private, no recording, nothing?
Yes, I will do that.
That we could have a double date. That would be wonderful. We would love it.
Yes, and I would as well.
Yeah. Beth, I love you. And I know
I love you too, Lisa. And I hope what I've had to say will be of some help to the folks who've been on the call.
Well, I know a lot of women came on and stayed on through the whole thing. They didn't want to miss a second of it because I've been watching. So
very good.
That many, many women stayed all the way to the end. And I know that they stayed because, we all have short attention spans, but not when they hear a story like yours.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah.
Blessings to all.
Thank you, everybody who tuned in. Please come back and join us again. I see so many of my beautiful clients who have been on today, and so many regulars. And it really is an honor to be able to share Beth and her story with all of you. Please come back and see